Most people think they understand exactly what happens when an older man lives alone. They imagine loneliness. They imagine a heavy, suffocating silence. They imagine an isolated life that slowly, tragically becomes smaller with each passing year. Society, the media, and even well-meaning family members view the solitary senior man through a lens of profound pity. They see a miserable, disconnected figure who desperately needs to be rescued. But the truth is far more complicated. Because behind many of these quiet doors, something entirely unexpected is happening. Millions of older men are not merely surviving alone. They are thriving. They are discovering a kind of freedom, an unshakable peace, and a depth of self-understanding that the vast majority of people will never experience. Today we are going to dismantle the societal stereotype of the lonely old man. We will explore the unvarnished truth about older men living alone, the good, the bad, and the surprising psychological realities that the rest of the world simply cannot see. Here are the 6 surprising facts about the sovereign man. Let us uncover the truth. Fact number 1. We must acknowledge that the beginning is truly, undeniably harsh. For the vast majority of men, living alone does not happen by grand design. It usually begins after a cataclysmic life transition, a painful divorce, the devastating loss of a lifelong spouse, or simply the quiet, bittersweet reality of adult children moving away to start their own lives. In the initial weeks and months, the silence can feel overwhelming. In psychology, this is a disruption of habituation. For decades, his brain was wired to the sounds of another human being. When those auditory and psychological cues vanish overnight, the nervous system enters a state of shock. But this period is not just about missing a person. It is an existential crisis of identity. For 40 years, he defined himself by his utility to others. He was the husband, the provider, the full-time father, the problem solver. When he is suddenly placed in an empty room, the silence asks him a terrifying question. Who are you when there is no one left to provide for? Many older men describe this specific period not as a permanent tragedy, but as a severe, mandatory adjustment. It is a psychological crucible. They are not just learning how to manage a quiet house. They are learning how to live with themselves again. And rebuilding an internal architecture takes immense courage, and it takes time. Fact number 2. Loneliness is a passing weather system, not a permanent climate. Society operates under the flawed assumption that an older man living alone exists in a state of perpetual, agonizing loneliness. But this reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the human mind. The truth is, loneliness does visit the solitary man. It comes in specific, acute moments. It might strike on a quiet Sunday afternoon. It might appear during the holidays. It might surface when he achieves something beautiful and turns around, realizing there is no one in the room to share the victory with. But here is the secret. The man who has mastered solitude knows that this feeling is ephemeral. It is just weather. It rolls in, it rains, and then it rolls out. He does not panic when the loneliness arrives, and he does not rush out to find a toxic relationship just to escape it. Instead, his permanent state of being transforms into something profoundly beautiful: presence. He lives in a state of calm, quiet self-awareness. He realizes that you can feel lonely for 5 minutes, but still be deeply, overwhelmingly happy with your life for the other 23 hours of the day. He masters the weather of his own mind. Fact number 3. A remarkable, measurable improvement in physical and mental health. There is a popular media narrative that claims isolation is deadlier than smoking, and that men who live alone die younger. But science requires nuance. Chronic, forced, miserable isolation is deadly. But chosen, peaceful solitude is a biological fountain of youth. Consider the physical toll of a bad relationship. The constant bickering, the need to walk on eggshells, and the invisible friction of cohabitation keep a man's nervous system in a perpetual state of fight or flight. This allostatic load floods his body with cortisol, skyrocketing his blood pressure and destroying his immune system. But studies increasingly show that older men who live alone and who have made peace with their solitude enjoy incredibly robust health. When he locks his door at night, he knows there will be no arguments. His nervous system finally powers down. His sleep architecture is completely uninterrupted by the tossing, turning, or snoring of a partner. His blood pressure drops. His muscular tension dissolves. For many senior men, the quiet of an empty house is not a sign of sickness. It is the ultimate life-extending medicine. They look and feel 10 years younger because they have successfully removed the daily poison of interpersonal stress. Fact number 4. The quality of his relationships actually skyrockets. One of the greatest myths about the solitary older man is that he is a misanthrope who has completely cut himself off from humanity. This is entirely false. He does not isolate. He simply becomes ruthlessly selective. Throughout his life, a man is forced to maintain dozens of superficial relationships. He endures forced interactions with coworkers, polite small talk with neighbors, and mandatory holidays with in-laws he doesn't respect. He maintains a massive social circle built on obligation. When he transitions to living alone, he performs a grand social audit. He takes the shears to the dead branches of his life. He completely abandons forced relationships, fake smiles, and obligations that drain his energy. What remains is a tiny, heavily guarded inner circle. He replaces dozens of superficial acquaintances with 3 or 4 incredibly deep, honest, and fiercely loyal bonds. Because he is perfectly happy alone, anyone who is allowed into his life must be a spectacular addition. He interacts with the world entirely on his own terms, and as a result, the relationships he does maintain are the healthiest he has ever had. Fact number 5. Radical self-discovery and absolute uncompromising freedom. To live with another human being is to live a life of perpetual negotiation. You negotiate the temperature of the house. You negotiate the television. You negotiate the grocery list. You negotiate what time you turn off the reading lamp. Your entire existence is a compromise designed to accommodate another soul. But, for the first time in perhaps half a century, the solitary senior man's time is 100% his own. He wakes up when his eyes open. He sleeps when his body is tired. He does not have to alter his space, his habits, or his thoughts to fit the expectations of a partner. This level of autonomy triggers a psychological renaissance. Freed from the distracting noise of cohabitation, he finally has the silence required to hear his own inner voice. He rediscovers hobbies he abandoned 30 years ago. He reads the books he never had time for. He discovers that freedom is not just the ability to go where you want. It is the absolute luxury of never having to explain yourself to anyone. This radical autonomy is an intoxicating wealth that most married men will never taste. Fact number 6, and the most important truth of all, they absolutely do not need to be rescued. Because society operates under the delusion that living alone is a tragedy, people constantly try to fix the single senior man. Well-meaning children suggest he download dating apps. Friends try to set him up on blind dates. Society looks at him with pity, assuming he is just waiting for the right woman to come along and save him from his misery. But the truth is, these men have chosen their peace consciously and deliberately. They have evaluated the modern dating market. They have calculated the astronomical biological, financial, and psychological risks of inviting a new person into their sanctuary. And they have made the highly intelligent, sovereign decision to decline the offer. They are living the most honest, authentic, and calm phase of their entire lives. They are not waiting to be rescued from their solitude. They are actively guarding it. What the single senior man needs from society is not pity. He does not need a dating profile. He does not need to be fixed. All he requires is that the world finally respects his boundaries and understands that a man can be entirely alone without missing a single piece of his soul. The life of an older man living alone is not a sad story written by fate. It is a masterpiece painted by choice. It is a life of absolute clarity, unshakable self-sufficiency, and a profound psychological comfort that those who are terrified of their own silence will never be able to comprehend. If you are a man who has chosen the path of sovereignty, know that you are not broken. You are a king who has successfully secured his borders. I want to hear from you. Head down to the comments and tell me, what is the greatest, most unexpected advantage you have discovered since you started living alone? Your wisdom, your scars, and your truth will help guide the men who are just beginning this journey in the dark. If you found value in this deep dive into male psychology, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Sage Academy channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a lesson. Thank you for watching. Until next time, guard your sanctuary and enjoy your peace.